Howard University and also as the director of our Center for Excellence in Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. And I am very excited to have with me here in our digital recording studio at Howard University a very special guest from very, very far away in the person of Dr. Joshua Valeta, who works for the Ministry of Education for the Nation of Malawi, and he serves as the director of the Open Distance and eLearning ODeL. Did I get that correct, Dr. Valeta?
Yeah, you got it right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so he's here with me. We're soon becoming old friends. We have now been on 3 continents together.
Yeah.
We met in India,
Yeah.
doing this important work of open distance and e-learning.
Yeah.
And then I was in Malawi earlier this year, and now he is here at what we call the Mecca, Howard University, and recording, and we're so happy to be recording this session in celebration of Distance Learning Week. So every year in the U.S. we have a week called Distance Learning Week in November, and it is a part of the United States Distance Learning Association. So we're doing our own celebration about that here at Howard University, because we want to highlight some things that are pertinent to our communities, our students, and definitely the nation of Malawi would fall within that. And so wanted to get that global perspective, because Howard University is very much a global university, and we want to get that global perspective and share that with others. And so the theme this year for the U.S. Distance Learning Association for their conference is how artificial intelligence is redefining distance learning in the year of 2023. And so before I get into even asking more about you, I just want to just get that question out.
Yeah.
What is the conversation around artificial intelligence, generative AI, etc., when in the nation of Malawi?
Yeah. Great. Thanks very much, Dr. Thomas. There is, I think, a live discussion going on, a discourse around artificial intelligence in Malawi and in the region as well. As I speak now, there's a Distance Education Association for Southern Africa, DIASA conference going on in Zimbabwe, and we have a delegation there representing us. And one of the things that they're discussing there is actually artificial intelligence. It's a big theme there, and they're looking at how it is a potential for us to utilize, but at the same time, it is also a challenge that we must find a way of dealing with. But it's more of a potential because it opens so many opportunities. One potential area of use is to do with tablet-based, computer-based learning, or technology-enhanced or enabled learning that we have. So we have some programs that are to do with that. For example, in our country, we have a program that is scaling up nationally the use of tablets, which have an adaptive software on it to enhance learning outcomes, which are very low, especially for the early grade classes of 1 to 4. So we are looking at how best we can apply artificial intelligence, for example, one, to make sure that there's a very close alignment between the digital education solution and the curriculum that is there. We're just talking to a certain colleague who's doing very interesting work, because I was asking the community of practice in Malawi and the others we are working with to say, who has a tool that can allow us to quickly map, what the digital learning software does to the curriculum, so that the quality assurance team and the curriculum people, they're happy with what we have even before we launch a program. And so we have come across a very potential system. They're still training the machine, of course, but it's very promising. It can allow you to very quickly map. You just take a syllabus, and then you take content. It can quickly map and even allow you to get content that's existing online or even on offline servers and create something that speaks to your content. So we think this is a very exciting opportunity at the moment. So we're looking forward to it.
I want to know, just tell me a little bit about who Joshua Valeta is, Dr. Joshua Valeta is, so that our audience who's going to view this far and wide will know and understand that, I know that I mentioned you're the director of ODeL, or Open Distance and eLearning, for the Nation of Malawi, working for the Ministry of Education, which is a government role, but you also are a professor, a senior professor, and have a discipline. So tell us a little bit more about that trajectory leading up to getting to working for the Ministry of Education.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Dr. First of all, I want to say that I'm very excited and I'm very grateful to be here at Howard University, one of the great universities here in the United States and around the world. What we, first of all, also to put it out there that I'm one of the very passionate advocates of open distance and e-learning, coming from, and I bring in, of course, an interesting combination in that I am a scientist, engineer, an agricultural engineer, but interestingly, my area of focus in engineering is actually the Internet of Things. And that's what also took me into the field of open distance and e-learning and figuring out how can we make education more accessible to others using the Internet of Things. So the university where I come from, it's called the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. I'm an associate professor there. I served as a Dr. Dean. And then I was the founding director of Open Distance and e-learning. So we onboarded the first set of open distance and e-learning programs, set up the whole directorate, and then from there I moved on also to help all the other public universities to do the same work. I worked briefly with USAID, and then the government established the Director of Open Distance and e-learning based on the recommendations we were giving to the government as we were working with the university and building a community of practice. And when COVID-19 hit, they found it right and proper that they needed a director. And so I was recruited now to look at open distance and e-learning for increasing access to education, enhancing quality, but also improving the efficiency and, more importantly, the resilience of education amidst the calamities that are beforeing us now very consecutively, climate-based and other natural disasters that are happening. So that's who I am. So I bring in the education element there, and I bring in the innovation element there, and now looking at across the sector of education, what is it that we can do for different sub-sectors? So the mission we simplified by saying we are there to promote equality of education opportunity. And by that we mean providing education for everyone, everywhere. That includes people that are in very rural areas, disadvantaged conditions, even those with disabilities of different types. And we have a large group of people who are also out of school already. They are youth, and some of them are adults, some are married, but they haven't had the opportunity to go to school yet. And when we think about how we bring them on board and make sure that they have a meaningful education of some sort based on what their choices and what they want to do in life. We are driven by a new vision for the country. We call it Malawi 2063, which aligns to actually Africa Agenda 2063. By 2063, we have clocked 100 years from the time of independence, freedom from our colonial masters. So it's a very important target that we have. Now, for us to get there, we realize that we need to build a very strong human capital that will help us with the engineering aspect of things, economics aspect of things, health, agriculture. So we want by 2063 to be an inclusively wealthy, self-reliant, upper middle income country. And that's a mammoth task. Now, we see education as a very critical element. For that reason, we say that by 2030, for example, we want every child to have access to up to secondary education. Right now, net enrollment into secondary is very low at 17%. And now we're saying, what do we do?
17 or
17, 1, 7.
Okay, wow.
The progression from primary to secondary is at 46%. But we're saying by 2030, we must make sure every child has the opportunity to proceed all the way up. And we are seeing open distance and e-learning as the opportunity, as the platform for us to be able to achieve that. And so we are very busy. We have developed a national open distance and e-learning program. We have developed a specific program for open schooling that's targeting secondary. And we have very interesting models that we are looking at, including smart learning centers of access and knowledge and support in rural areas, and then building a platform that will allow both online and offline learning linked to these centers, and then having a community of teachers and tutors who can support whoever wants to enroll. And that will enable us to do self-paced independent learning. So opening up the doors for everyone else to access. As I speak now, about 20% of our students in secondary education are in open schools. So they're doing that in open school. And then I spoke about the very interesting program that we call BEFI, Building Education Foundations through Innovation and Technology, targeting early grade learners. And we're using e-learning, tablet-based learning to enhance quality. And this is something we have developed for over 8 years. We have piloted it. We have done a lot of research and randomized controlled trials, about 7 of them, and 2 other very robust studies with partners from all around the world. And the evidence is so compelling. So we are doing that to make sure that for primary, we are building a strong education foundation for our young people. And for university and tertiary education in general, we are helping the universities to introduce more open distance and e-learning programs so that we can get in more. So we have seen a very rapid increase within a period of 2 years, for example. Because of this openness to open distance and e-learning, universities have increased their enrollment through open distance and e-learning by about 40%. So we are on a trajectory to move really forward and learning from our different countries and building on very innovative approaches such as the enhanced model that Dr. Thomas here, you generously shared with us this year actually, early this year during the ODeL symposium. We have a group of leaders of higher education that are very, very energized, and we believe that the sharing that you did with us is going to help us go very far when it comes to opening up access to education and enhancing efficiency.
Open distance and e-learning has increased enrollment and access by 40%.
Yeah.
So that's a huge percentage.
It is.
And so numerically, I'm curious, do you have the numbers of what that 40% is like how many students were there previously, and then what that 40% looks like now for the nation? What are we talking about as far as numbers?
Yeah, great. So, thank you very much for that. So 2 years, 2.5, or maybe we can just say 3 years ago, we were at around total enrollment for higher education, public universities especially, we were hovering at around 39,000 or so, right? And our access to higher education is very low, it's about 3%. So that's why open distance and learning is really opening up doors for us to do greater things.
I apologize.
So,
I know we're having a conversation, so if everyone's watching, it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
Of two colleagues, two friends. I got to applaud you. I've been wanting to let you get everything out.
Yeah.
So, in the nation of Malawi, the access to higher education this is for adults, those who would be eligible for higher education, was like 3%. So that 39,000 is 3%. So higher education is very exclusive, I would say, in your nation.
Yeah. In fact, let me correct you. Help me place it in time, in terms of time, a little bit better. So around 39%, we were at 0.8%. So the 39,000 was around that.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And so, in fact, things have moved very, very quickly. If I look at the time, we started doing serious open distance and e-learning in around 2016 or so. That time, our access to higher education was 0.1%. Now, between 2014 and around 2018, 4 years, we moved it from 0.1 to 0.4, and a year later, 0.8. That's doubling it. And now, 3 years later, we have reached 8%.
How much of that would you attribute to the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus? How much of that growth of people being possibly more accepting, I should say, to open distance learning? What kind of impact did that have on it?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good one there. Yeah. So, and by the way, there were two main factors that contributed to the exponential increase to access to higher education. One is the open distance and e-learning, but also later, for the past 2 years or so, or one and a half years, we took one university and kind of unbundled it. So we created 3 universities out of one, so that also helped. But even that, what we also saw was that this university, when it was just one university, it is like the first university in the country, the University of Malawi. So, preservation of tradition. So, now when we unbundled, these are the new universities like, we're going ODeL. Introduce this program. I will introduce this certificate program in electrical installation. Offer it through blended learning. We introduce construction engineering. We introduce computer science. Offer it online. Blended learning. So that also helped us a bit, boom. So physically separating them now increased access, but also these universities now quickly adopted open distance and e-learning. So now coming to the pandemic, you cannot praise the pandemic, but
no, it was great. I'll say it was great for our work.
I think it was. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. So when the pandemic hit, one of the things that happened was that everyone was, they went helter-skelter and said, what shall we do? And then we were going there like, we taught you.
Yes.
You see? Now, look at your other universities there, your peers. They're continuing with education. They're like, okay, come help us. We need tablets for this and that. They say, now we should have a clear strategy for open distance and e-learning. And you know what we did? We now said we are going to engage the top leadership of the universities. And this is very important when it comes to open distance and e-learning. You and I know, maybe you know better than I do, that you need the support of top leadership.
Absolutely.
So we convened meetings with the chairs of the councils of the universities, their vice chancellors, here we don't do our provost, and the university registrars. So a team of 3 from each of the public universities. We sat them down and said, what can we learn from COVID-19? Now, we cannot afford to have a similar thing repeat if another calamity hits.
Absolutely.
And moreover, we are operating universities like an exclusive club, which is not right. If you're talking about a new vision that says we want it to be an inclusively wealthy, self-reliant nation, an upper middle income nation. You cannot do that if you have an exclusive club of very few people that have the knowledge and skills needed for them to be productive in society. So we said, open up. Right. We are there to support you. We have a policy to support you. We will mobilize resources for you and with you to make sure that you develop these programs and run them. And that really energized them. So as we speak now, we have new programs being onboarded. I can cite one university, and this is a university of business and applied sciences, one of the new universities. And they've said, for us, at this in the next 2 to 3 years, we are going to onboard 20 new programs online. They're going online. You go to another university of science and technology, they're saying, actually, for us, every program is eligible for open distance and e-learning. Wow. And we're going to onboard. I woke up the other day and I was reading the newspaper and I saw they're advertising 12 programs on open distance and e-learning. So that's the impact that we're beginning to see. And I think it's very exciting. And that's why we also cherish the relationships that we are building with the West, with Howard University, through you, Doctor. And we are hoping that this is going to help us to sharpen up and go further. So as you celebrate, please know that behind the scenes you also have another team celebrating with you, like God distance education.
The few things you said, I wanted to make sure you got it out. You talked about your traditional, like your nation's flagship university, University of Malawi.
Yes.
Splitting.
Yeah.
That was drastic, right?
Yes, it was.
One thing that I want to kind of, I would think, emphasize or hammer home with that is that for anyone who may be watching and wondering, you had to, basically take, for the results you wanted, to take extreme measures to make that happen.
That's right.
So that was extreme in your country. It wasn't like that was a small undertaking.
No, it was. We had actually a group of people resisting it furiously. I'm like, you cannot do that. Like, we're doing that.
And you were doing it because the thought was for education,
yes,
for the learners,
exactly,
students and digital learners. And then you started mentioning some of the programs that came out of that. Were those programs based on the needs of the country? So, like, I think you mentioned computer science, if I remember the wrong one. Yes. But so was it like, this would be something that will help our country and is in alignment with the 2063, or were the programs just like, we're just going to go with whichever one? So what was the impetus for the program selected?
Yeah, that's a very important question, Doc. I really appreciate that. Indeed, because there are many programs that they have, we had to prioritize. Because we're opening access, but not just opening access. We want to open access to something that will be more meaningful. So what we did was that we worked with the universities to prioritize. And we said, which programs have the highest potential to impact society and speak to the goals of Malawi 2063, our national development goal and vision. So then we tasked each university to sit down and seriously comb through their programs and come up with a list. So, and then when they did that, we said, now, if you're going to open up access to higher education, start with these programs. Because we want a lot of people to have the skills and knowledge in these areas, because these are the priority areas as highlighted in our plan, in Malawi 2063 implementation plan, which the first one is for 10 years from 2021 to 2030. So we said align, and then when you align, get them started. And we try to mobilize resources through the World Bank to support this. And we said, we are not supporting any other program. We're supporting the programs that speak to the national development priority.
Another thing I want to highlight, if people haven't already picked this up, is that in Malawi, your role is not just for universities. You are there for all education.
That's right.
So that's from early childhood to you all call it tertiary.
So early grade or basic education, maybe general, secondary education, and all the way to tertiary education, which includes and the universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how important is it that that you all go from, or look at and oversee everything from early, basic, all the way through through tertiary or higher education and beyond? Like, what? Speak to us about that, because it's a little different.
Yeah.
Here we have all of that. But and we do have a Department of Education, but it's a little bit within the state. Every state is different, so it's not as comprehensive because yours is really more centralized for the full nation. So I just want to talk about that so we can understand that because it's not our direct.
No, thanks, Doc. I think the country felt that it was necessary to have a central office that looks at all the subsectors of education. Because in that way, then we would be strategic and more efficient. For example, we have a national education sector investment plan, 10 years from 2020 to 2030. That one highlights to us the major challenges or gaps for each subsector. So it tells us, for example, that for the basic education, the main challenge is quality. So learning outcomes. If you look at the early grade classes, 1 to 4, only 13% are able to read with comprehension a simple text. So quality is an issue. We have high dropout rates, and that means inefficiencies in the system. And then when we come to secondary education and higher education, the issue becomes access. Like I've said, 17% net enrollment or 46% progression from primary to secondary is very low. And tertiary education, now we're at 3%, is very low. So for these sectors, it's really quality access first, quality later or next. For basic education, is quality first, and then access later. Of course, we still have about 13 or 11% or so that are out there, and then we have a lot of out-of-school kids also who need to be onboarded back to school. So, because we did a wonderful job of opening up access to primary education when we introduced the free primary education in early 1990s, 1994, somewhere there. So then, strategically, as a central office, we had to say, okay, what should be our focus when it comes to basic education? Where do we and how do we apply e-learning or education technology? That's where we said, okay, let's bring in technology that will enhance quality for primary. For secondary, let's bring in open distance and e-learning systems that will, first of all, open up access to secondary. For tertiary education, the same. Let's bring in technology that allows us to open up access or means and ways and means of implementing open distance and e-learning so that we have exponential access. So that's the beauty. And that also allows you to envision properly and plan properly, because you know if you're opening up access here in secondary, for example, you have to be ready for huge numbers into the university. Of course, here you have 30,000 applications to university. One university. In our case, you maybe get only half of what overall. You get only half of the students that are not even eligible. I shouldn't use eligible. Half of the students that apply. Because you have a lot of students who are eligible, but they know that there's a limited space. They don't even bother to apply. They're like, there's no need to apply. So and then we are accumulating every year. So we have a huge number of young people that are out there who are looking for tertiary education opportunities post-secondary. So we want to create this. So by having one central place that looks at all these things, you see the linkages and you can plan accordingly, working also with other directorates in the ministry and other development partners as well as industry partners. So that's it.
So I heard two things, and that open distance and e-learning provides, or really addresses two of the main things, and that it provides access and it increases quality.
That's right.
Which are, and that's at all levels. That's right. So, just a couple of more questions, and then we'll wrap up. We probably could talk about this all day. We both are very
and of course, by the way, apart from the quality and access, which are the major two, you also have efficiency and resilience to climate shocks, to COVID-19. So ODeL helps us with that as well. Absolutely. But the major ones are these first two, quality and access.
And I'll just make sure to repeat that. So you say it adds efficiency and resilience. Yeah. And so I've done a number of interviews and speeches, and one thing that I say, because I think that we still have a lot of people who, and I don't know if this is the same in Malawi, but we have a lot of people who are still skeptical. Yeah. And a lot of people who are traditionalists and say, well, this COVID is over, let's get back to, traditional learning, in-person learning, and not realizing that if it literally had not been for educational technology, distance learning, that continuity, academic continuity, wouldn't have been possible. That's right. So, while it might not have been easy during that time, is because there was not the readiness that was there, that was needed. That's right. So you would think that the idea would be, let's be ready, let's continue with this, as opposed to, let's run back because we weren't ready to do something. But as you mentioned, this allows for efficiency, resilience. It really strengthens education at all levels if we do take from that lesson, which I think was a preview of sorts. I don't want to sound like the person that but really, based on your numbers, I also want to point this out. In the United States, for more than a decade, so much so prior to the pandemic, the fastest growing sector of higher education was and still is online learning. Wonderful. So if that is what's growing fast, and it sounds like for Malawi, based on the statistics, the numbers you gave, the fastest sector growing is ODeL, or Open Distance eLearning. Correct. Because before that came into existence, your numbers were much lower, would allow those numbers to grow at the rapid pace. That's right. So I just want to raise, we're talking about that here, for people to not ignore the writing on the wall. So that's right. Like, whether we embrace it or not, it's going to happen. And institutions, like you mentioned, your institution willfully branched out and changed. But if I had to look into my crystal ball of sorts, based off of data, but based off of just watching things in all other industries, higher education will be mostly digitized. Yeah. I do think I think we will always have traditional in-person courses, but I'm pretty certain, only that I think, pretty certain based on trend, pattern, globally. It's not just happening in the United States, it's happening globally, that the people, the students, the needs, the demands are transitioning us. And so hopefully someone somewhere will listen before it's too late. That's true. That's really true. And the beauty is that also we are generating data or evidence around these things. Yesterday at the Mobile Education Alliance conference, we had a team from NASA. They were talking about NASA education and how they're making resources for education available to all. And I think as we are wrapping up that session, one of the keynote speakers there, she made a very strong statement. She said, you know what? I think, truly speaking, the way higher education is going on, like in countries, in places like the United States of America, it's becoming too expensive
Now, that's another factor.
It is.
Right? Now, with AI coming in and the online learning, and actually she has said, we are seeing a trend already. That people are moving away like, okay, I'm going to onboard, I'm going to get an online learning program, or even micro-credentials.
Micro-credentials,
yeah,
absolutely.
So that's gaining ground. So I think I would like to believe that the train has left the station.
It's gone.
It's gone. So the people who still want to say, I tell them, I'm vice chancellors back home, I tell them, if you don't want to do ODeL, don't do it. But I can guarantee you that you'll be left behind.
Absolutely.
The other universities are going to surpass you. Apparently, that university, the first university that that looks like the guardian of academics, now they're going seriously to open distance and eLearning. They've done statistics programs, they're going even to mathematical science programs. So they've realized that now this is a huge opportunity. You can do more. The issue of efficiency. You can do more with that coursework that you have produced and the videos you have recorded, the lessons. Kids will be learning, students will be learning while you are on the plane to the U.S., to Washington, D.C. and visit Howard University. You see?
It becomes ubiquitous. You can do it anywhere, everywhere.
Exactly.
And your life doesn't have to stop. There's so many different things you can do with it. I'm also happy that I'm here with an engineer, a scientist. You mentioned mathematics, statistics, computer science. A lot of times people try to limit it to certain disciplines. Say, well, my discipline can't be taught digitally. It can't be taught in an ODeL environment. No. And there's again, evidence for that. It's all about the development of it, and it's happening right there in your country. So we both clearly are proponents, but we're biased based on evidence. We're biased based on that we've done the work. We've seen that number of people educated in our country. I've seen the work that is done here. Again, we've seen that it sustained the world, not just the U.S., not just Malawi during a pandemic. So with that, as we wrap up, what would be the final thing that you would want to say to all those who might be watching us today, say to Howard University, since you're here at the Mecca, and also to your country, because hopefully greetings to the Minister of Education and Secretary of Education, and so hopefully they will watch this as well. Like, what would you want to, final words you want to say to people as far as what you want to encourage people to do, or just any final words around this now that you have this platform to do so?
Yeah. Thanks very much, Doctor. First of all, I'm very grateful to our Minister of Education and the Secretary for Education for allowing me to travel and come here and do whatever we came for, and also more importantly come to Howard University and be able to sit here and talk about this subject that we are so passionate about. Not just for the sake of doing it, but because it's very important. I think the evidence is out there. The wisest thing to do nowadays is to make evidence-based decisions and policies. And that's why data analytics, data science is becoming, I think, the most famous sub-discipline of statistics. If you can look at it from that angle, because it feeds into everything. AI, flourishes on data. It's the blood of everything. So,
I have to pause it for a second. A shameless plug in. We just launched an online Master of Data, Applied Data Science and Analytics here at Howard University. So if anybody watching this, go to our website. So we have that program.
Excellent. I'm going to tell, I have one of my members of staff in the department. I really wanted her to do data science, and we are looking for an online program. What a better place to study than Howard University. So I'm going to encourage her. Right after this interview, I'm going to send her a WhatsApp message and say, check it out.
It launched this fall. And it's actually from, which is great because it aligns with your 2063. It's from a social justice perspective as well, data science and social justice. And so it's an fully online program. We actually have students in that program from the continent. I know we have some from Ghana. I'm not sure what other nations, but it's already global.
That's
so
great.
We're ready. Tell them to come on.
They'll come on, definitely. Yeah, so I think it's very important also to have an open mind. And we have people who have gone through open distance and e-learning programs who are doing very well.
Very well.
I can make a real quick reference to one of the short courses that one of the universities launched, which is a short course in electrical installation. It's a blended learning program. They come on campus to be introduced to the program, and they go back home and study on their own, and they use the learning management system, and then they come for practicals. They are placed in some organization. Guess what? Some of the graduates of this program are doing much better than the ones who go and sit in the classroom, because they started, like I usually say to my students and even other managers and the public in general, the word student, the noun student, comes from the verb study. Right. Now, if you compare the people who go through open distance and e-learning programs with the people who are on campus, you will find that those who really study are the ones who do ODeL.
Oh, absolutely.
So they are more of a student than. And the other beauty that people don't realize is that when we are implementing open distance and e-learning, it improves the quality of teaching for the members of staff or the faculty in any university, in any program. And that also, of course, cascades down to both the ODeL program or the online programs and the face-to-face programs. So that's the beauty that is there. And there is another advantage. You advance, you keep on moving forward, you don't go backwards. There might be challenges here and there, and so is the case with face-to-face programs. There are also challenges here and there. You have lecturers, you have faculty that are not really academicians, or educators. I wanted to say educators, sorry. And you have to train them. In online programs, the pedagogy is much, much better because you want to make sure that you have self-instructional materials. So there, the pedagogy is more entrenched and more pronounced than face-to-face programs. So you end up with a thoroughly bred individual. And like I said, there will always be outliers. There will be those people who cut corners and still try just to survive. But overall, I think the evidence is continuously showing that there is a very high level of, you can compare the two and see that you still get very good graduates out of the online programs as well. And some of them are CEOs and provosts and professors and high-level politicians out there. And so there's no doubt what we need to do is to come together. If there's any concern, raise it and also check with the system to see if those concerns are really genuine or they're just prejudices, so that then we can work together to perfect the programs that are being offered through open distance and e-learning. But open distance and e-learning is definitely there, has many benefits. Opening up access, enhancing quality, like the case of our early grade national scale-up program, but also increasing efficiency. So you can have one person doing a lot more, producing so many educational resources, including the open educational resources that are out there. And then finally, resilience. So if COVID hits, if another thing hits, like Bill Gates says, we should get prepared for another big one. So we should be worried about that and take it seriously. So we should be prepared. And then there's climate change imposed disasters you can't predict. But we need to have these programs going on to make sure that nothing shuts down completely, because that is very costly and we don't want to find ourselves in such situations. So get on board. This is real and it's changing lives. Online learning is realistic, it's very real, it's very powerful, it is very, very helpful and progressive in nature. Thank you all.
With that, we will close this great session for this celebration of National Distance Learning Week. Thank you so much, Dr. Valeta, for coming, and thank you for sharing with us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas, and thank you all for listening, and hope that we can catch up again sooner or later. Thank you.